Diep once asked her friends a simple question: do you believe that with God's love, everything eventually finds its way toward healing? After many years of loving, enduring, and quietly fighting for their place beside one another, Diep and Jame finally walked down the aisle today. Rings on their fingers, vows in their hearts, their new future took shape, even though James's father once objected fiercely, even painfully. Today, let us witness the day that destiny finally bowed to love. The first sunlight of dawn slipped gently through the window, laying a warm golden sheen across the room. The glow touched the edges of Diep's pure white wedding dress, turning its delicate lace into something ethereal. She stood before the mirror, still and breathless. Her fingers trembled slightly as she brushed against the small ring resting on the dressing table. The metal caught the morning light, shimmering softly, as though it carried memories of every tear, every promise, every silent victory that had led to this day. A storm of emotions gathered inside her, joy so full it made her chest rise sharply, nervousness that fluttered like a bird beneath her ribs, and an overwhelming gratitude, the kind that humbles a heart. Today, she and Jame would finally become husband and wife, after years of waiting. After moments when hope seemed too fragile, after holding on to faith when everything else seemed to fall apart. Outside, Jame was surrounded by his closest friends, laughing as they adjusted his tie or teased him about finally settling down. But every few seconds, his eyes drifted toward the room where Diep was getting ready. He still couldn't believe it, after all the storms, after the arguments with his father that left him shaken. After the misunderstandings that nearly tore them apart, after the failed proposals that made him question whether fate was cruel or simply waiting. They were truly here, standing at the edge of forever. Inside him was a happiness so gentle, so tender, he barely dared breathe. It was the kind of happiness that only arrives after someone has fought long enough to deserve it. His mind drifted back to the early days, the long, tiring hours they spent together at the factory office. Late nights discussing timber shipments, reading through employee pay raise requests, or reviewing budgets for annual company outings. The work was heavy, yet somehow lighter when she was beside him. Between numbers and business plans, there were always gentle glances. Quiet reassurances, warm laughter, a small touch on the hand that meant, "I'm here." To Jame, Diep wasn't just a partner in business, she was the person he wanted to walk beside for the rest of his life. But his father had not always shared this view. A stern, disciplined man who valued reason above all else, James's father had opposed their relationship from the start. And the moment he heard that James and Diep had adopted a little girl, his disapproval deepened into something sharp and cold. He couldn't accept the uncertainty. Who were the girl's real parents? Why take on such a heavy responsibility? Why choose trouble when life could be simpler? To him, love must follow logic. But James and Diep didn't argue. They didn't rebel, they simply chose to prove themselves through quiet perseverance. One afternoon, Diep brought the little girl to visit James's father. The old man sat stiffly, preparing himself to judge everything he saw. But when the child looked up at him, her eyes bright, her smile pure, her innocence unguarded, something shifted. Something unspoken. He said nothing, just looked at her for a very long time. Perhaps in that silence, he finally understood that this wasn't a reckless decision or an act of youthful idealism. It was love, it was devotion, it was family, created by choice, not by blood. The proposal that didn't need an answer. James also remembered the third time he asked Diep to marry him. He had taken her to a small hill overlooking the village. The setting sun painted the rooftops gold, and the wind smelled of pine and fresh earth. The moment felt suspended, quiet, sacred. "Do you see this?" he asked softly. "This place looks like a fairy tale, and I want you to help me write the rest of it." Then he opened his palm. A pair of rings glinted in the last light of day, but this time, he wasn't asking. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said with a gentle smile, "because I already know your answer." Her eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but from certainty. She slipped the ring onto his finger. Her hands shook with joy, not hesitation. The cool metal touched his skin, and in that quiet, they both felt it, an invisible thread binding them together, heart to heart, life to life. "James," she whispered, "I'm ready. No matter how long it takes, my answer will always be yes." A father's blessing, at last. Now, on their wedding day, sunlight streamed through the great hall, scattering soft reflections across the polished floor. James's father walked slowly into the ceremony. His steps were steady, but his eyes carried a weight of years, of stubbornness, of fear, of regret. He looked at his son standing tall in his white suit. He looked at Diep, elegant, radiant, her eyes shining with quiet strength. For a moment, he hesitated. Then he approached. He placed a hand on James's shoulder, his voice trembling for the first time in years. "Son, I wish you both happiness." And with that simple sentence, every wall between them crumbled. Years of harsh words dissolved into something simple: acceptance. James's mother stood nearby, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. Her smile was gentle, proud, the kind of smile only a mother knows how to give. We didn't miss our chance. James turned to Diep, took her hand, and whispered, "We finally didn't miss our chance." She smiled through her tears. There was peace in her expression, a quiet glow only love can create. Around them, applause filled the hall. Laughter mingled with soft music. The afternoon light shimmered through the glass ceiling like a blessing descending from heaven. And in that moment, everyone understood something profound. Love is not about finding someone perfect. It is about walking through imperfection together, and choosing, again and again, to stay. As James and Diep exchanged vows, it wasn't just a ceremony, it was an ending, and a beginning. A closing of old wounds and the opening of a new, beautiful journey. A story where reason and heart finally found balance. Where every hardship deepened their bond. Where faith, patience, and unwavering loyalty forged something eternal. Their wedding was not merely the union of two souls, it was the triumph of love itself.